Well, some weeks ago, we brought you the story of the suspended Dr. William Bay, and those of you who watch regularly, you'll be aware of some of the, let's just say, strange things that AHPRA have been up to in terms of how they've been handling doctors and the suspension of doctors' licenses, etc., in relation especially to medications around COVID. But this problem is not limited just to Dr. William Bay. In fact, it's affecting a lot of good doctors out there. There's a lot of good doctors out there that aren't able to see patients at the moment because their registration has been suspended by AHPRA. Some under slightly more suspicious circumstances than others. My next guest is the suspended Dr. My Le Trinh. My Le, welcome to the Aussie Wire. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Now, can you just give us a quick précis of what is your situation at the moment? Who are you? What was your area of medicine where you were practicing? And tell us the story of the suspension as it's unfolded up to this point.
Sure. So I've been a GP for close to 30 years, 27 years, and I've been practicing in the northwest of Sydney, New South Wales. And I was suspended on the 27th of October 2021 as a result of two complaints that came to me on the same day. Now, I've never had any complaints in the whole of my career until the 20th, until September of 2021. So I received two complaints on the same day. One was from Westmead Toxicology Department regarding a patient that I've treated. This lady was gravely ill with COVID-19. She was in cytokine storm, and she was diagnosed in hospital, but she refused to go back to the hospital because she had a fear that she's going to die, and she didn't want to die without her loved ones around her. So as a consequence, I decided to treat her. She got better. She did get some side effects, maybe as a result of my treatment or from something else. I don't know, because I don't know the circumstances around her presentation. However, she ended up in casualty, and as a result, they reported me to the Westmead Toxicology Department, referred me to the Medical Council, or the HCCC. My second complaint was from someone called John Smith, who claimed to be a member of the public and who presented with an ivermectin script, which turned out to be that of my family member. And so we don't know anyone called John Smith. I've asked the Medical Council and the HCCC as to who John Smith is, and they refused to tell me who this person is. Now, this person, John Smith, does not have an address, does not have a telephone number that's connected, and his email address bounced back. So there's no way that any of these health regulators are able to contact John Smith. So how can they investigate a complaint that had that they don't know who the complainant was?
And you're suspended on the basis of those two complaints. There is so much to unpack there. I'm going to have to just pick my way through this piece by piece because I want to go right back to that very first complaint. Here is a lady who is in grave health, in fear of her own life. She makes a medical choice about, in a sense, how she would rather die. She would rather die amongst loved ones than in hospital. She comes to you for treatment. You, as a doctor, do your best, and it appears that there may have been some side effects as a result of your treatment. Is that a fair summary?
Correct.
Did the patient want to complain about your services to her as a doctor, or is it just the toxicology department?
Just the toxicology department. In fact, the patient doesn't want to. Not only that, someone tried to coerce her into making a complaint against me, and she still refused to.
So the patient themselves is happy with the service that you provided. They are alive. Let's not lose sight of where they were at when they came to you. They were in fear of death. I can't comment, obviously, on how valid that fear may or may not have been at the time, but she was in fear of death. She is alive. She doesn't want to complain. But because there may have been a side effect, obviously a non-fatal side effect, as a result of your treatment of her, maybe, this complaint was lodged. Would that have been enough, do you think, to get the suspension? What's the relationship here with the John Smith second complaint, same day? It smells of a hit job. It smells of some kind of an attempt to give a pretext to take your license down.
Yes, so there's no doubt about that. The aim, to me, my impression is the aim has always been to cancel my registration. Now, the legislation 139E states that in order to cancel someone's registration, you have to have at least two complaints that's being investigated. Yeah.
Two on the same day.
So,
sorry,
yeah.
It's incredibly serious. It's not funny, but it is kind of hilarious. Two complaints on the same day, one of them named John Smith, uncontactable, unverifiable. Now, I want to come to this John Smith story because there were a few things that you said that caught my eye. So this was a script for ivermectin. It was a real script. It wasn't a fabrication. It was one that you did make out, but you did not make it out to John Smith. Is that correct?
No. John Smith claimed that the person that had the script was his friend.
And claimed that he was doing it on their behalf. Like, aren't there rules around medicines and claiming other people's medicines, etc.?
Well, yes, but he sort of give the impression that he is really friendly with this member of my family. So it happens to be my brother who's sort of mentally disabled, and he doesn't have any friend called John Smith. In fact, only the family members are looking after him.
Right. So the story itself is implausible. How is this being handled? Who handles these sorts of cases? You're obviously pushing back and saying, no, this isn't right. I'm not being suspended on the right grounds. Is this in the courts, or is this actually being handled through some sort of an internal complaints process?
Well, apparently they refuse to listen to what I have to say regarding the circumstances around the complaint. My lawyer has written to them that this looks like a falsified complaint, and
Sure
they've
does.
just ignored.
Right. So what's the escalation here? What's the road ahead for you? Are you going to have to get on the front foot and start dragging them into court with all the costs and everything associated with that? How is this fight likely to unfold?
Well, I have gone through quite a sort of a series of legal processes, but at the moment, I've got a Court of Appeal hearing that's coming up. So, and this hearing is one that I've taken the medical counsel to court on a judicial review challenging two issues. One was a legislation that states that the medical council and the HCCC have the duty and the responsibility to refer me to the tribunal if my complaint was significant. And it is significant because they've suspended me. So this legislation states that at the moment when they considered that my case was significant, that the referral had to take place. Now, it hasn't taken place until just 2 weeks ago, because in order to try to make my Court of Appeal hearing have less utility, the HCCC have decided to refer me. And that's the legislation that I've challenged in the Court of Appeal. And then my second Court of Appeal challenge is a delegation of power. So the panel that suspended me has to have power delegated to them from the executive officer, because ordinarily the medical council do not have the power to suspend.
Right.
So it's only under the case of an emergency, which is what they've suspended all doctors on, that we are a danger to the public, and they have to exercise this emergency power to stop us from practicing. And that's just a whole heaps of lies, because all we're doing is well, I can only speak for myself, but I'm doing everything possible to save a life that's in front of me. And I have done that successfully. Had that patient gone to the hospital, I believe that she would have died, because the treatment would have been intubation and remdesivir, which is almost a certain death as an outcome. So I'm not a danger to the public. I resent the accusation that I'm a danger to the public. So that's an abuse of legislation. That is abuse of power to claim that I'm a danger to the public. And my second complaint, in my opinion, is falsified. Whoever it is at John Smith, I don't know who it is, but I think that the health regulators know, because all they need to do is to find out the IP address of John Smith, and that will get to the bottom of who John Smith is. But they refuse to entertain this. They refuse to answer to my questions. I have reported this to police, and so far I haven't had any response, or I haven't heard anything from the police. So I'm doing the best that I can, and this is to me, it's a witch hunt.
It certainly seems that way, and there's a lot of layers to this, and one of the things that strikes me is they're not just persecuting you, and I tend to agree it has at the very least the appearance of having been a hit job and the appearance of that second complaint being fake, pending other evidence to show that person really is legitimate. It has the appearance of a hit job, and they're not just persecuting you, but they've deprived your patients of their doctor for 25 years in some cases, no doubt. And they've deprived Australia of a highly qualified and very successful medical practitioner, multiple decades in the business without any complaints whatsoever. And this is happening now, of course, to multiple different doctors, all with different pretexts and different stories. So this is a very, very serious situation. The abusive process, the abuse of this bureaucratic power is very, very concerning. Suspended Dr. My Le Trinh, thank you so much for joining us here on the Aussie Wire. We are going to keep up to date with your story as it progresses. I wish you the very best in your fight. And if there's anything we can ever do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much for joining us on the Aussie Wire.
Could I quickly just add one thing?
Please do.
I'm waiting for the tribunal to release my judgment of the delegation of power. And my hearing in the Court of Appeal cannot proceed until the tribunal releases a judgment.
Right.
Now, it's been adjourned 3 times. It's been 15 weeks this Friday or tomorrow, and the tribunal have not released the judgment. And we have to adjourn the hearing again on Monday.
So they're just turning the process into the punishment. They're just dragging that out to make it as expensive and as painful for you as they possibly can.
Was it a little bit more than that, because my Court of Appeal hearing has a lot of significance, because by challenging the referral from the by challenging the referral to the tribunal, and when I win this argument, this legislation in the Court of Appeal, it will be the end of indefinite suspension of all practitioners in the state of New South Wales.
Wow. Okay, so you're swinging for the fences here. This is a precedent that could really have a big impact, at least within the state of New South Wales. Well, My Le Trinh, I wish you all the very best, and we will stay up to date with this story as it progresses.
Thank you.